On a late afternoon, November 15, 2024, in a quiet residential neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, an emergency call shattered the stillness. Reported as a domestic disturbance, the police immediately arrived at the scene, where a woman, in her 40s, with a frantic expression and clear signs of distress, was requesting help. She accused her son, a young man serving in the military, of attacking her after a heated argument with his girlfriend. However, things were not as simple as she described, and from there, a bizarre sequence of events, filled with absurd moments, began to unfold. The story started on a damp afternoon, when an emergency call was made to the police station about a family disturbance. The caller was a middle-aged woman, looking as if she had just stepped out of a reality TV show, with a panicked face and tense body language. In a state of disorder, she claimed that her son, a young man just returned from his military deployment, had viciously attacked her. There had been a big argument at home, and according to her, her son had physically assaulted her until she could barely endure the pain. Specifically, she demanded an ambulance immediately and insisted on having a supervisor from the police present to handle and assess the situation. Not only did she demand medical assistance, but she also repeatedly emphasized that her son should be arrested without delay. She insisted that no one in the family would defend her son, as, according to her, all she received from those around her were silence or lies. The anger and anxiety she displayed made it clear that this situation was more than just an ordinary family dispute. It had escalated into a psychological battle full of drama, where each party had their own version of the truth. As the police officers were preparing to arrive at the scene, the woman continued to create an atmosphere of tension, nearly unbearable to witness. She didn't just ask for help, she ordered those present to comply with her wishes. It seemed that in her mind, there was a firm belief that her son must pay for his violent actions, regardless of the events being unclear or not matching her description. This only heightened the tension, making those witnessing the scene feel as though they were caught in the middle of a play filled with contradictions and surprises. The moment the police arrived, the woman didn't waste a second expressing her demands. "I need to speak to your supervisor right now," she shouted, without regard for the circumstances around her. "This is a serious matter." Her voice held no trace of fear or confusion. Instead, it was a demand, a clear command, as if she were not just a victim of an assault, but the one running the show, calling the shots. She didn't just ask for help, she demanded justice immediately, as though everything had to be resolved on her terms. She quickly began recounting the story about her son, a grown man who had just returned from a military deployment, not a child easily manipulated. According to her, he had brutally attacked her in a fit of rage, and she was immediately convinced that he must be held accountable for his actions. Though what was strange was that there was no hesitation or doubt in her tone. She didn't pause to consider the small details of the incident, whether she had sufficient evidence or if anyone else had witnessed the assault. She simply insisted that her son was the culprit and needed to be arrested immediately. She wanted vengeance, justice, but with no room for leniency or compromise. All she needed was the police's acknowledgement, a confirmation that what she said was the truth, without any questioning or investigation. In her eyes, calling the police for intervention was a right she was entitled to because she was the victim. And, of course, she had no interest in wasting time with unnecessary details. "My son did this," she asserted, as if her accusations alone were enough to have him locked up on the spot. Not only was she a woman seeking justice, but she also displayed a strong sense of entitlement to belief that everything should go according to her terms, with no need to justify or explain further. While the truth of the situation had yet to be clarified, she was ready to create a high-stakes legal battle. From her attitude, it was clear that she was accustomed to demanding quick and efficient outcomes, not because of righteousness, but because she felt she deserved special treatment in every circumstance. What started as a typical family argument seemed to quickly spiral out of control when it involved her son, a soldier just back from a lengthy deployment, and his girlfriend. According to the mother, the initial dispute was simply a misunderstanding, but it appeared to escalate into violent conflict, largely because her son could not accept being accused of infidelity. "He's a soldier. How could he do this to me?" the mother cried out, as if the family's honor was being attacked. Her words not only reflected her pain and anger, but also revealed a deep sense of betrayal by her own son. She did not just see the situation from the perspective of a hurt mother but from someone who felt personally betrayed by the very person she had raised, the one who was supposed to be the pride of the family. As she retold the story, the details became increasingly tangled, but she remained firm in her belief that her son, just back from the battlefield, was the perpetrator of the assault. To her, his actions were easily explained by one simple thing: the feeling of being insulted by his girlfriend's accusations of unfaithfulness. But no one in the family truly knew what had happened. Everyone was caught in a web of conflicting testimonies, with no one willing to step forward and confirm what exactly had occurred. Although the mother insisted she had been shoved to the ground during the argument, other family members offered vague responses or tried to de-escalate the tension. Her son, with the tough exterior of a soldier, seemed to have completely lost control in the heat of the moment. But did he really act as she described? Or had the mother exaggerated the incident in her mind? This family drama wasn't just a conflict between mother and son, but a collision of two worlds. The mother, living in a world where power and respect were paramount, now had to face the reality that her son, a soldier used to strict discipline, could lose his composure in important moments. But more significantly, while the mother focused solely on accusing her son, she neglected the psychological and situational factors surrounding the incident, such as the stress of a soldier returning from deployment, the pressures of his relationship with his girlfriend, and the feelings of being criticized or misunderstood, which may have pushed him to his breaking point. Things started to get messy as the family became more and more entangled in their own battle. The mother's words, full of anger and confusion, repeated incessantly, as if she were trying to convince both herself and those around her that her son must be held accountable for everything. But was the truth really that simple? Was her version of the story the whole picture? Each family member had their own version of events, but in the end, the chaos of these different stories only added to the confusion for those witnessing it. As the police officers attempted to approach and manage the chaotic situation, the woman didn't waste the opportunity. She grabbed her phone as if it were the key to uncovering the truth, the justice she had been seeking. "I have a video. Watch it," she shouted confidently, as though this was irrefutable evidence. However, everyone in the room could feel the tension in the air. The officers were trying to resolve a complex case, while she seemed to be caught up in a reality TV moment, eager for everyone to see her blockbuster video immediately. However, what the woman fails to realize is that, amidst the chaos and everyone's attempt to understand the details of the situation, the video she presents may not be what the police need most. They don't require a video, they need clear testimonies and an insightful understanding of what happened in her family. But this woman refuses to let go, repeatedly emphasizing the evidence she has, unaware that she might be complicating the situation further. Her actions, appearing rushed and impatient, leave those around her feeling confused. She thrusts the phone in front of the officers, the light from the screen casting a glow on their weary faces as they try to maintain control of the chaos. The video she presents is not an investigative clip or clear images, but a blurry, shaky piece of footage that makes it impossible for viewers to discern what's truly happening. It could be a spontaneous shot as she was pushed, but can it really prove anything? Or is it simply a recording made in the midst of panic, lacking clarity? As the officers continue analyzing the scene and talking to those present, the mother stubbornly insists on the authenticity of the video. She can't understand why the police don't recognize the truth she has so clearly and unmistakably presented. Her sense of despair is palpable, convinced that once the video is shown, everything will be clarified. She keeps repeating that this is the most important evidence she possesses, failing to realize that it might not be sufficient to determine responsibility in a domestic violence case. Moreover, for the officers, who are used to handling tense situations, seeing blurry videos without clear legal value is hardly surprising. Still, they can't deny the woman her request to view them. While the images might contribute something to the investigation, they are clearly not the decisive factor. An uncomfortable atmosphere fills the room as the mother continues to loudly proclaim about her video, unaware that everyone around her is starting to feel as though she is trying to steer the situation in the wrong direction. The officers exchange looks, unsure how to handle what she has just presented. One of them finally speaks up, gently explaining that they will review the video, but more importantly, they need to clarify the truth through testimonies and evidence from the involved parties. Yet the woman refuses to stop. With the sense that she holds everything necessary, she continues to push the phone into the officer's hand, showing no regard for the precious time being wasted on resolving a serious case. Throughout this exchange, the video not only becomes evidence, but also a tool for her to assert her power in the fight for justice. But in her mind, is the video just a way to escape the feeling of helplessness she experiences when no one seems to acknowledge her pain? A video may show a specific moment, but can it truly reveal the full story behind it? This question remains unanswered. As the situation escalates, the woman seems unable to control her anger. Instead of continuing to recount what happened, she begins pointing to her broken nails as if they are the sole victims of the attack. "Look at my nails, they're broken. He did this to me," she cries, as if the broken nails are undeniable proof of the crime her son has committed. To her, the shattered nails become a symbol of pain and injustice, while the officers are struggling with more pressing questions, such as whether any weapons were involved, or if she was pushed, or if she fell in a moment of impulsiveness. The officers look at each other, unsure how to handle this situation. She keeps lamenting her broken nails, while the other family members' testimonies clearly contradict each other. One officer can clearly hear his colleagues sighing as they deal with a woman who is too focused on trivial details, while the real situation is far more complex. How can they resolve this mess when everything seems too dramatic and illogical? The big question now is not whether she was abused to the point of breaking nails, but what the real story is, whether she truly is the victim, or if she is trying to exaggerate things to attract attention. What makes the officers even more confused is how she uses her broken nails as a tool to elicit sympathy, while other important factors remain unclear. Did she really get attacked, or is this all just a game to make everyone sympathize with her? The broken nails aren't the most important thing in this case, yet she spends so much time focusing on them, making the officers feel as though they are part of a play where trivial details seem to matter more than the basic facts. From the mother's perspective, she may truly feel pain over her broken nails. The beautifully manicured nails, carefully crafted during an extended beauty session, are now not only broken but violated in a highly emotional way. But can a broken nail really prove that she is the victim in this case? Is she attempting to explain her pain by focusing on a seemingly unrelated detail? This reflects a satirical commentary on how people sometimes focus on material, insignificant things to avoid confronting the truth. The situation becomes even more complicated when the woman continuously changes her story. At one point, she says she was pushed. At another, she claims she fell by herself. Each time her story shifts, the officers face even more difficulty in analyzing the truth. Every word she says feels like a new piece of the jigsaw puzzle they are trying to put together. So who is truly at fault in this story? The proud mother, or the son who once fought in the military, now considered the aggressor in his own family? The situation turns into a game of contradictions and suspicion. On one side is a woman desperately trying to prove she is the victim at any cost, even with broken nails. On the other, the officers, confused, trying to discern what is true. Will they ever find the answer in this maze, or will everything simply remain a game of power and misunderstanding with no end? The woman's story becomes increasingly vague and elusive as she changes her stance at a rapid pace. At first, she insists that she was brutally attacked by her son, but shortly thereafter, she hesitantly admits that she might have been drunk and provoked him. This is a notable shift from a victim of domestic violence. She now creates ambiguity and diminishes the credibility of her story. "I was drunk, I provoked him," she says, as if admitting her own part in the incident could somehow justify her son's actions. She even asks the officers to arrest her, believing that is the only way to resolve the injustice she feels. This shift in her testimony not only undermines the trust in her story, but also leaves the officers even more confused. Why would a woman change her story so quickly? Every time she alters her argument, a piece of the truth gets distorted, making the situation much more complicated. Now, the officers are not just dealing with a domestic violence case, but also with doubts about the accuracy of the testimonies. As the woman's story continued to shift, her attitude became increasingly aggressive and unpleasant. She repeatedly called out the police officers, criticizing them for not doing their job properly and even accusing them of not taking the situation seriously. The situation grew more bizarre when she saw herself as the only victim in the story, ignoring all other factors. The police were trying to work in a chaotic and unclear situation, while she continuously condemned them for not acting quickly enough. While the mother argued with the police, the son whom she had accused of assault seemed to have disappeared. Perhaps he was hiding in some room, too scared to face his mother, or simply didn't want to get caught up in a dramatic family spectacle. This created an interesting surprise, as the woman firmly insisted that her son was the perpetrator, yet he was not present to. When the woman could no longer tolerate the calm demeanor of the officers, she began to resist more vehemently. "Take me to jail, but don't touch me," she demanded, as if she were a queen ordering her subordinates. By now, her self-satisfaction had reached its peak. She not only wanted the officers to do things her way, but also demanded authority in the situation, causing the officers to struggle with her attitude instead of focusing on resolving the issue. As the officers tried to handcuff her, the woman reacted more strongly, becoming aggressive and showing clear hostility. She began shouting insults and refusing to cooperate, unconcerned with the officers' duties. In her mind, only one thing mattered: protecting her ego and personal freedom, despite the fact that she might have contributed to the situation. When the woman was finally escorted into the police car, there were no signs that she would calm down. Instead of facing the situation maturely, she fell into a state of panic. "I'm not comfortable. I'm scared. Take me to another car," she screamed, as if her feelings mattered more than anything else. While the police were trying to handle the situation, she created new chaos with unreasonable demands. Once again, she showed a self-centered attitude, unaware that she was now in the hands of the police and being taken to jail. Additionally, she expressed fear of being with a specific officer not because of safety concerns, but simply because she didn't want to experience discomfort during the trip. For her, her own comfort was the most important factor in the situation, even though she was facing arrest for resisting and insulting the police. As the woman was taken away, she continued to hurl verbal grenades at the officers, attacking them mercilessly. They only hoped she would be in jail soon to end this chaotic ordeal. With final charges of resisting arrest and threatening violence against law enforcement, she made the officers pay for the dramatic and tense situation she had created. Perhaps her son had been trained to fight in the military, but no one could have prepared him for a battle with his mother in a family battlefield. In a long drama full of twists and reveals, the woman created a performance no one would forget, not because of her pain, but because of how she confronted it. In the end, when everything was over, the woman would probably never forget her trip to the police station, and she would certainly never forget the feeling of having her freedom taken away, freedom she had always believed she deserved. Throughout the process, from accusing her son to blaming the police, she proved one thing: life does not always follow personal desires, and sometimes an inflated ego can cause us to lose logic and dignity. This story is not just about domestic violence or resisting the police, but a reminder of the importance of confronting the truth with honesty and patience. While we may have valid reasons to feel unjust or angry, sometimes it's our attitude and how we face the issue that determines the final outcome. The great lesson from this story is the necessity of emotional restraint and finding a way to solve problems wisely and rationally. Disregard for reality, impatience, and a self-centered attitude can lead to poor decisions, sometimes even harming oneself. In tense situations, instead of reacting harshly, we need to learn to listen, self-regulate, and view the problem objectively. Only then can we truly overcome difficulties effectively.